National Black and Gold Day. It's perfect. Proclaimed this 5th day of December in the year 2024 by the Avon Town Council. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. Congratulations.
We might do a quick recess and we'll take us down a couple photos. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Avon, December 5th Town Council meeting. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions regarding the check register or the work session or regular meeting minutes?
No. I'll make a motion that we adopt the the consent agenda as presented to include our check register for today, our November 21st work session and council meeting minutes, and as well as acknowledgement of the receipt of the Redevelopment Commission's TIF spending plan, again, as presented. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon, Jason Puckett,
4.
Bill Holland,
4.
Greg Zuzen.
4. Next item on the agenda is the first of 2 public comment opportunities. You may come forward and address the council. Please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Keith Evans, I live at 8989 East County Road, 200 North. I'm here speaking on the Meyer project they have going on. I, with my family, have lived here for 26 plus years. How would any of you on this board want to live with a fueling station in your front yard or just across the street from you, with all of the smell and noise and lack of privacy at all hours of the day and night? You would have headlights shining into your living room, not counting on all of the extra traffic brought on to an already at times overburdened road. At the latest of multiple public meetings already held on this project, specifics of the site plan of why they think this latest plan is best suited over a previous plan were not explained, with example of size and location of landscaping privacy mounds or the specific locating of an identity of outlot business occupants, the fueling station, were not disclosed, which affect current neighboring property owners. How would any future road improvements needed, including water and sewer installation, affect the neighborhoods in the area? Would future planning of town council meetings be needed before outlot businesses being built are started? With all of the multiple changes already made on this project and a lot of people not wanting it from the beginning, that should be loudly say something about that this is not the proper place for this project. Maybe an area food desert would be a better planned location for this.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward at this time? With nobody coming forward, then we'll close the public comment section of the agenda and move to council comment and liaison reports. Mr. Holland?
I have nothing at this time.
Ms. Loudon?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Puckett?
Nothing tonight. Nothing for me.
The only thing I have is we had a planned commission meeting on November 25th. Let's move on to new business then. Civic Center GMP and schedule. Mr. Cannon?
Yes, thank you. As the town council is aware, we have been working on the new Civic Center project at East and Gray. A couple months ago, we approved a interlocal agreement, or it wasn't an interlocal agreement, it was a cost share agreement with the school corporation to split the cost of the construction of this building. And then the town council and the school board also approved a contract with Garmong. And so through that process, we then told you the next step was to bring what we call a GMP, which is a gross maximum price to build the building. So just as a reminder, we selected a construction manager as constructor, and that contractor was Garmong. And so they give us a price and they say, this is the maximum price to build the building. They actually go out, do the bidding, and then they are responsible for delivering the building at that price. And then they also provide a schedule as well. So I know that I gave you guys a very summarized version of the GMP, but the actual GMP is this document right here. That's about 45 pages that lists out all the costs, all the bids and everything. I didn't give you guys that level of detail because I didn't think you would necessarily want to get into it. If you do, I'm happy to pass it around and we can look at it. Mitch Hannum is here from Garmong as well. Rick Rush is here from Veritas. And so I don't know if they want to say anything, but they can maybe answer questions if you guys have any questions. But we are happy to report that the GMP that's been provided by Garmong is $28,481,173. It did end up with the bids coming in a little bit under what we originally estimated. We do still have some contingencies in the project. So again, we feel strongly that we are under budget at this point. I think I'll quote Rick's. Rick told me, he said, this is about as good of a project budget as he's seen on any project. So sorry, Rick, I'm only quoting you because I know you're moving on, so you don't mind me saying that. So I think, again, we feel good about it. We're really happy with the work that Garmong has done to this point. And so we are excited. This is the next step in the process. I do have, sorry, do you mind passing those around, Julie? I know Greg and I talked earlier this week, and I failed to provide, just as a reminder, just the sources and uses to you guys on how the project's going to be funded. So just as a quick reminder, Julie's passing that around. But there's a number of sources to this, and even though you're approving the GMP of $28,481,173, the redevelopment commission is going to approve this as well, and the school board's going to approve it as well. The $28,481,173 is not the town's share; that's the cost of the construction of the building. And so, a couple sources we're using to pay for this. We will be doing a bond, which you guys will see the start of that bond process at the next meeting. And then the ARPA funds that we received of about $4.5 million. We also got a READY grant of $1.5 million. And then the Redevelopment Commission has also contributed some cash to the project. And that's how we get to the town's total budget and the total sources and uses for the project. So that's the information on how we'll pay for it. And again, the full cost of the project is not just the town's. The school corporation is also doing a bond to pay for their portion of the project. So again, our team is here to answer any questions, or if you guys want to share anything, feel free to get up, or if you guys have any questions for these guys, please feel free to fire away.
The only thing I was going to add is to Ryan's point there, the bids came in so successfully that there's about $750,000 in additional owner contingency that allows for flexibility kind of beyond what we had planned. And we had made sure that we were in good shape, but this allows just to, if anything does arise, that you guys also have that additional flexibility. So it's to Garmong that they were able to put together strong bids and structure points, ability to put together drawings that were really reflective of the overall arching design.
That was going to be my question. What were the contingencies that we still built into this?
So above and beyond that, there's also a $1.7 million that's captured. There's construction contingency, there's owner construction contingency that is allocated within that GMP, as well as that will not be used unless it is agreed upon by Ryan. And so there's also then the separate owner soft cost contingency that's at $750,000. So I think in total, I can see here. I have
The owner contingency in there is $1,661,642. So again, there's still substantial flexibility in that number.
So
Yeah,
my
and
only
there's
question
there's a
is,
construction contingency of 750.
if we don't need that contingency, we
Comes
don't
back to
spend
us.
the money.
it
Correct.
goes back to you. Yep. That's correct.
So Ryan, on your abbreviated version that you put here, it's showing town 20,095,930,2020. But you're saying it's 28. What?
So no, if you see the first column in my abbreviated one, the construction cost is 28,481,173. And so then again, our share is 5545. So our share of the construction is 15,655,586.
Okay.
And you're right, Dawn. If you look at in totality, what we're showing there, it's showing us about 95,000 over budget. The reality is because of the contingencies and then some of the soft costs, we've not even approved yet. So there are contingencies still in some of the soft costs, but until we get contracts, we're carrying those still. So we are still very confident that our share will come in under the 20 million, which is what we said we were going to spend, even though that's reflecting a little bit over.
Any other questions for Rick or for Mitch? Mitch, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, Mitch Hannum, Garmong Construction. I can't get off too easy. We are planning on being finished around the third quarter of 26. So everybody always wants to know when it's going to be done, right? So right now, as Ryan mentioned, that GMP does guarantee both a price and a schedule. So yeah, third quarter of 26 is when.
Not 25.
Not 25.
Not 25.
Will not be 25. Yep, nothing in
So
25.
yeah, the very specific date is in the contract is August 20th, 2026. And again, as we've talked about on construction projects, they could get additional days of delay due to weather and other things, but that's the date where the building would be delivered to us. Now, we still probably wouldn't move in that date. There may be furniture and other things that need to get in as well. And so I think we've talked about trying to be in the building by October 1st of 2026, not 2025.
Council, any other questions for Mr. Cannon, or would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the Civic Center GMP and the schedule as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Don Loudon,
4.
Bill Holland. 4. Robert Pope,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Jason Puckett.
4.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is award a quote for police drone program. Deputy Chief Nugent.
Thank you, sir. You have in front of you a memorandum from myself, as well as a invoice, a quote, if you would, from a company that we have been in contact with for just about 20 months now. So unfortunately, it's taken that long for FEMA. FEMA took a position where they had to actually examine and approve the make and model of the drones we're looking at. So this is a grant, a 100% funded grant from the Department of Homeland Security that we applied for in April of 23. And we just received a notification that these drones were actually approved. And so we're seeking approval to make the purchase and authorize clerk treasurer to make payment in the amount of $35,172. That's a reimbursement grant that we will receive after we actually receive the products and submit paperwork. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Brian? Somebody like to make a motion?
I move that we award the quote for the police drone program as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Bill Holland.
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Thank you.
I just want to thank Brian and the police department. You always use the grant system, and we always get these funds reimbursed, and I appreciate that, because we can do more.
Yes, sir.
Less, so.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, Joe.
Next item on the agenda is the proposal to update the recreation impact fee. Ryan, you're going to?
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and handle this for Shelby. As you guys are aware, Chuck Lehman in the past has always done our recreation impact fee studies. And I think we had talked about this in the budget process actually last year, because we budgeted some money this year to update our recreation impact fee. We also budgeted some money next year for our rec impact fee. So as you guys know, if you've met Chuck before, Chuck was approaching retirement. And so Shelby and I have kind of had ongoing discussions with them through the year. You'll notice this proposal is from V3. So in anticipation of Chuck's retirement, he has sold his company to V3. V3 has done work for the town before too. They did some park site planning for us. V3 is an engineering arm of actually Williams Creek. They're kind of subsidiaries of each other's company. So we've actually had a relationship with V3 for a period of time too. So Chuck is continuing to work at V3. So he's actually on their staff. So Chuck will still be doing our recreation impact fee update. It's just flowing through V3. So, and again, Chuck is across the state of Indiana is recognized as the premier person to do these recreation impact fees. So he's done our previous 2 studies. Typically, we do these every 5 years. We're actually recommending to do this one sooner as a result of our acquisition of our sports department, as well as just the additional land that we've added to our inventory. It changes the whole calculation of the impact fee. So we believe it's to our benefit to go ahead and do this now, again, sooner than the 5-year period. It will take us about 6 months to do it. So it takes 6 to 8 months. We have to have a steering committee that kind of drives us through that process. And then they'll make eventually a recommendation to the town council. We are able to use recreation impact fee dollars to actually pay for the study. So, and we're able to recoup those costs in our impact fee. So that will be the source of payment for this. The proposal is $38,750. I did not notice till tonight that they did have some reimbursables in there. I know you guys dislike reimbursables. I see Greg nodding his head. So I don't know exactly what their reimbursables are. And again, we can certainly try to avoid that. So I'm not sure how you guys want to do that. If you want to approve the $38,750, that's fine. Or if you want to approve $40,750, that's fine as well. I'll defer to the council on that. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Cannon? Do we have, on the very bottom, it states that you got items 1 and 2 with a couple bullet points. Do we have these things already in place? The advisory fee,
I'm sorry, where you at, Greg?
at the bottom of your very front of the presentation here. legislation stipulates that an impact fee advisory committee be appointed, impact fee zone be established. We have all those things in place.
We have all of those things. We'll have to update our committee. We had one when we did it 3 years ago. All the other stuff is already in place.
And then my next question was going to be, has it been 5 years since we have done this? And you said, no, we're doing it sooner. So we're okay there. And then you talked about the reimbursables, and I have that marked as well. So can we delete that?
You can delete it. I'm not sure what the reimbursables are.
Well, it was
So-
reimbursables there, and then down below, they wanted us to pay them 110% of any of the reimbursable fees. So those, I think they kind of go together, but I'm not going to give somebody 110% of the fee.
Yeah, we're definitely not giving them 110%. Again, it's not uncommon for us to see some reimbursables. Sometimes on these, like when you're making a committee and you're making color copies and you're making 10 copies, like they do have some reimbursables. Again, we could try to make those copies ourselves and try to avoid some of those expenses, but typically that's what I would see. It's packets of information for the committee, the Recreation Impact Fee Committee and stuff like that is typically the reimbursables.
Those are the only questions I had. So with that, I don't normally do that, but I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal to update the recreation impact fee with an amount not to exceed $38,750.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Greg Zuzen,
For.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Bill Holland,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Next item on the agenda is Resolution 2024-28, authorizing transfer to the rainy day fund. Julie, you doing that? Ryan?
I'll do it, but Julie can help me out if she has anything she wants to add. But as you guys know, every year when Greg helps us go through the budget process, he makes recommendations of where we should be with the rainy day fund. And again, part of that is to show that we have healthy fund balances and that the town has a safety net in case that happens. It does help us when we are moving forward with bonds. Greg has recommended, I think that if my recollection is right, that we get to $1.8 million like in the next 3 years, and we're at about 1.4 if I recall, so or maybe 1.3. So we may have about 500,000 to try to do over the next 3 years. So with that, I know I had talked to you guys about that our general fund is in really good shape this year. And so with that, I proposed that we do between 150,000 and 250,000 of transfer. We'll kind of see where we're at the end of the year. And if we have enough money left in the general fund, then we'll do a $250,000 transfer. But again, we would do a minimum of 150, which even at doing 150 over the next 3 years, that would still get us to Greg's recommendation. So Julie and I kind of shared that discussion. We're always a little skeptical to lock ourselves into a number just in case when we get to the end of the year, we don't always know what that'll exactly look like. But, and again, the council has to pass a resolution to direct us to do that if that's what you'd like to do.
So, but within this resolution, we're going to give you a dollar amount. We're just saying up to 250. It could be
I'm gonna say minimum.
$10,000.
Correct. Well, I think in the resolution, it actually says that we would do between 150 and 250. So we would do a minimum of 150 and a maximum of 250.
I just see up to 250.
Okay, maybe I did just say up to 250. Okay. Okay. So yes, it could be less. But again, if you want to add that language that it be between 150 and 250, that's fine. I think I did it to give us flexibility, but that's your guys' discretion.
Any other questions or comments for Ryan? Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2024-28, authorizing transfer to the rainy day fund as presented.
Would you amend your motion to include a minimum statement there of 150.
Yeah, we
I
can
think
do
that's
that.
what we were sort of expecting and looking for.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2024-28, authorizing transfer to the rainy day fund with the inclusion of a $150 minimum added.
50,000.
50,000.
I'm sorry, yes, 150,000.
I'll say, we've all been there.
I'll do 150 if you want me
I'll
to.
second that.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Bill Holland,
4,
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon,
4,
Jason Puckett,
4.
Craig Zuzen.
4. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 2024-29, fiscal plan for Aviana annexation.
Yes, as you guys are aware, anytime we do an annexation, we have to adopt a fiscal plan, which is our plan to provide services to the annexation area. This one's a relatively simple fiscal plan. It's 0.17 acres. It's along the Ronald Reagan Parkway. Aviana Company is the developer of Avon Commons. And so there was one little parcel that they had done a swap with the county for right-of-way. And so when they came back through, we told them in order to get approval that they need to get that parcel annexed. And so they did sign a super voluntary annexation. And again, it's like a 0.17 acre parcel. So the fiscal impact is really nothing to the town. So, but you guys do need to approve the resolution. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Only question is it resolution 2024-29 or is it -26?
It is 29 and it has been corrected.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Need a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 2024-29, the fiscal plan for Aviana annexation as presented.
second,
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Don Loudon,
4,
Bill Holland,
4,
Craig Zuzen,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Next item is resolution 2024-30, declaring surplus police vehicle. Deputy Chief Margison.
Hello. First, I'll apologize for my dress. I came direct from firearms training, so normally I would try to be a little bit more professional, but this was more suitable for that training. So we're here before you again to ask that you request a vehicle as surplus property so that we may be able to get it to the auction and hopefully utilize those funds on the new vehicles that we purchase next year to get them outfitted. The vehicle that we're requesting to be declared is a 2014 Dodge Charger. It has 113,000 miles on it, and it is in need of rear axle work and some other repairs at a minimum cost of $4,000, which is likely probably close to what we'll get at auction or even more for the repairs than what the car's worth. Any questions, I can answer them, but I think that's pretty much all we have.
Any questions for Dave? Motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we accept resolution 2024-30, declaring the police vehicle as surplus property.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Don Loudon,
4,
Robert Pope,
4.
Craig Zuzen,
4.
Bill Holland.
4,
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Next is resolution 2024-31, accepting real estate from Hendricks County Commissioners. Mr. Taylor.
yes, the Hendricks County Commissioners have offered to transfer to you a tax sale certificate. As you may know, the county governments are required to do that if the real estate that's involved is in your town. And so we had indicated, we'd like to receive transfer of that certificate. If you formally accept the transfer of the certificate, then there's a process to go through to get a tax deed, which we'd still have to do, but that would allow you to own that property that has previously been up for tax sale. Be happy to answer any questions.
My question is on the certificate, it shows the current owner of record, this DK.
It does, yes. Yeah, we'll have to provide a notice of redemption to them and to any lien holder on the property in order to get the tax deed and follow the statutory process.
And to bring it current, it was $1,634.50.
That's what it was at tax sale. The commissioner's tax sale certificate works a little differently. So that would be, the redemption would be the delinquent taxes plus penalties and interest over a long period of time. It doesn't get to be a commissioner's certificate until it's gone through a tax sale, not been purchased or redeemed a couple of times. And so properties like this, it's usually very unlikely there's a redemption. And you're allowed to get it for nothing.
So if it's not redeemed, then after this, I don't know, what's the date here? What do they have up to, what date to redemption for the redemption?
120 days from the day that we adopt this, I believe.
From September 20th.
From the day that we take the certificate.
So as of today's date?
I would think so. Is that not correct, Dan?
Well, I didn't know if we were stepping into their shoes and because they're assigning the certificate.
The county assigns it to us, and then that should start the 120-day redemption period for the owner when we take ownership.
It's from the actual date of transfer that's on that certificate. It's already been signed by the county. That's the date.
Oh, okay, there you go.
November 12th. So that clock is already starting. We'll have to give notice. But by March, Jason's right, by March, then you could then petition the court for issuance of a tax deed and have the auditor sign that tax deed.
And then we would get it for zero.
Yes, that's what it's being offered to you for. Yes, but you have to then get title. And so that tax deed is how you get title.
Any other questions for Mr. Taylor? Somebody like to make a motion?
I move we adopt resolution 2024-31, accepting real estate from Hendricks County Commissioners as presented.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
John Madden,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Bill Holland.
4.
Next item on the agenda is the final reading of ordinance 2024-58, the Meyer rezoning. Ms. Albrand?
Good evening, council. This is the Meyer rezoning, which is at the corner of 900 East and 200 North, the northwest corner, 28 acres from the R1 district to the C2 district to provide for the Meyer grocery store, 3 outlot buildings, and a fuel center associated with the Meyer development. This was filed quite some time ago and has gone through numerous iterations of the site plan with feedback from the town and from neighbors. Staff is recommending approval. It did go before the Planning Commission last week on 11/25 and was recommended, a favorable recommendation to you by a vote of 6-0. We did add conditions in, including the grant of right-of-way, roadway improvements to which the petitioner has agreed, that the future development plan review that comes in is consistent generally with the site plan that we've already seen, and that uses are prohibited on the site, mainly outdoor or auto-related uses. Would you like me to go through the criteria? The petitioner's representative is here with a presentation if you'd like to see it.
Any questions for Linda?
Not for Linda.
Would the petitioner like to come forward?
Yes, Brian Smallwood with Wolpert. We're the civil engineer for Meyer. And I brought a brief presentation here just to kind of go through quickly for you where we are with this particular project. The plan you see here is sort of the final plan that we have come to through cooperation with the staff and input we've heard from both yourselves previously, the Planning Commission, and residents in the area. So come back to this in a second. This is the plan that we first brought before you guys. You guys have seen a while back here, back in August. This is the one we presented, and you guys gave some really constructive feedback on. There were some concerns with this one, where it it had some close proximity to the existing trail that was there. Building was relatively close to the residences adjacent to it, et cetera. You can see on the left here some of the items that you all would like to see on that. And we believe we've addressed all of those as we've moved forward with the iterations. We took the input from you all and also presented this plan at a town hall meeting as well, and got some really constructive input from the adjacent residents, which of course led us to this plan. This plan, we reconfigured the site to move the store farther away from the residents to the west. We sort of flip-flopped some of the detention on the project so that detention pond and some of that landscaping and whatnot on the west could be between the store and that adjacent residential area. We also shifted, so you see, now, we moved that driveway that was previously closer to the trail. It's now 390 feet from the trail, which, based on our coordination with your traffic consultant, the minimum distance they wanted was 200 feet to provide for the appropriate stopping site distance. So we've greatly exceeded that. We were able to move the store, 307 feet to the east. We believe, increased some of the landscaping, continued to maintain the pedestrian connectivity, et cetera, with this plan. And then we presented this plan, of course, to Planning Commission, and also got some additional feedback during that, which gets us to this plan, which we presented last week to the Planning Commission. This plan, essentially what the differences between, of course, is we moved the M Express Fuel Center to the southeast corner of the site, or which is the northwest corner of the intersection there. We also rotated that fuel center 180 degrees to place the rear of the building towards the roadway to more closely mimic with sort of the building outward and parking inward nature of the overall development. And that allows us the opportunity to utilize the four-sided architecture for those buildings. So it presents a nice face to the roadway, keeps the parking away from the roadway. The added benefit here to the M Express in this configuration is, after hearing everyone's considerations, we felt like this was the best compromise in that it allowed this building to move as far as possible from the residents to the west. It allowed for the necessary convenience and access that allows a function like that to operate. Also, in this position, in this rotation, it allows us to develop a significant green space on the east and the south side of that building that sort of complements with those large transmission lines that are there. So by giving us that bigger green space, we're actually able to develop greater landscaping, mounding, and screening there than we could previously with the other configuration, because we can put shrubbery and things like that under the wires, but we can't change the grade significantly under the wires. But in this configuration, we now have not only that first layer of screening that's there, but behind that, we now have green space out from underneath the wires to add more mounding and additional landscaping on top of that. So really, that's kind of what we're here to present. I'm really here to answer any questions you might have on that, and appreciate your
Questions for the
opportunity.
petitioner?
We had a remonstrator come up and talk about, he lives, I don't know which home, but lives within what he perceives will be a sight line for the cars pulling up. What kind of vegetation will there be to block the home sites there on 200?
Yeah, I mean, I will be honest with you here. This right here is shown as a variation of landscaping right now, essentially because, the just kind of representation of what it could be. To be honest with you, what we would be looking for, we would anticipate it be an evergreen type plantings throughout. But our anticipation would be that when we come through for our final development plan and our more technical engineering review, that we would work with staff to meet the criteria that they put out there for us. I think we certainly have enough room based on our grading studies in this area to develop mounding that's certainly high enough to block the lights in and of itself. But then when you supplement on top of that with additional evergreen plantings, I think we can develop a substantial screen for those headlights.
And what will be the hours of operation for the fuel center?
The fuel center would be the same as the store, which is 6 a.m. to midnight is what I've been asking for.
That green space you talked about, there's part of it, the reason why it's as large as it is because there's utilities that run through there. Is that correct?
There are utilities, yeah. That overhead transmission line runs through here as well, right up along the perimeter. There is another water line that will run through here as well. We've been in contact with Energy, and as part of this development, there would be requiring the extension of the 16-inch water main that's at the adjacent residential property across the frontage. So the green space does give us that opportunity as well. But yeah, the configuration here on either side of the building, the flanking the building to add the mounding really helps, and then along this area as well.
Your fuel station is for passenger vehicles only, not trucks, not semis?
Not semis, no. Pickup trucks, that sort of thing. Yeah.
But not semis coming from
Certainly
the
not.
warehouse district across the street?
No, the configuration of the fuel dispensers as well as the canopy itself does not accommodate semi trucks.
Okay. I was just asking because Mr. Evans, again, those would sit higher and, for his.
Yeah,
view of the
understand.
lights. Okay.
Understand completely. Yeah. The only semi truck that will be through this area is the fuel delivery truck.
Also on the site plan, when we made the comp plan and laid out County Road 200, which is your frontage street there to the back of your outlots, that was supposed to be a boulevard. We made it a median like that down there so that it was more of a residential district and not commercial district. So I do have concerns about the cut in the median for the left end. I'd prefer to see all right in, right out on 200 so that we're not cutting our medians. They're in the middle.
Understand your concern. We believe that the cut in the median is necessary to help facilitate the access into the site. Based on our coordination with the traffic consultant, we have provided all of the data and the modeling to support the cut here in the left end. And based on their review of our analysis, they've agreed with us and approved that study. So I guess that's my answer to that one, is that we do believe that we need the left in here.
For the convenience of your store?
Well, certainly it does help the convenience of the store, but it also has an effect on the actual roundabout itself. When it's all right in, right out, anyone coming from the west to the east who wants to enter into the property, it'll actually add more traffic to the roundabout.
There is no roundabout there, though.
The roundabout that is
The
here.
further one? Okay.
Yeah, because you have to go past
Right.
you've kind of added an additional trip for the left end because you have to go past the site, around the roundabout, and then back to the right in, right out. So, again, the cut in the median and the turn lane links and all of that, we have analyzed extensively and coordinated with the traffic consultant. And again,
Going east, there'll be a left turn lane to go into the development, and then there'll be a passing blister as well to continue going east.
Yeah, the improvements that are shown here is, yeah, absolutely. There will be a left turn lane here, and then the appropriate amount of asphalt would be added here to maintain that through lane.
Ryan, so it's one cut in our thing that we were so happy about it being there in the median, making that a boulevard down 200? Is this really, I mean, this wasn't the vision.
It wasn't necessarily the vision, but I think also, I don't think we necessarily knew how it was going to develop either. They were farm fields. So certainly the median is there as a safety restriction. And so adding a left turn lanes are inherently dangerous. So it makes it more dangerous. But like Brian said, if you force too much traffic to the roundabout, you reduce the level of service of the roundabout, and then you require additional improvements to the roundabout at 900. So there's a compromise there. So I think that's when Steve and our traffic engineers looked at it, I think they felt like it made sense and that it was safer to be able to have the left than to bear the additional traffic onto the roundabout. But again, that's just a staff technical review. It's your guys' discretion if you want to do it or not. But I think we don't see there's not a traffic engineering reason to not necessarily permit it.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
So are we going to be able to turn left coming out of there then, rather than turn left to go in? Are you going to be able to come out and continue east?
Yes, it's proposed as a full access cut there. The good thing here is that with this access here, we do have a full access cut here. But with the positioning of the right in, right out here, and the full cut here, it does give you multiple opportunities there as well. So. And again, the turn lanes that are here, the northbound left turn lane that is shown here, has been modeled as part of that impact study as well. And all of the appropriate drop turn lanes or drop deceleration and inbound lanes for this right in, right out were part of that study. Also, it's a little tough to see here, but in the one of the conditions of the traffic impact study was to extend that median that's here further north past the right in, right out to prevent any kind of left in violations there. So
Your truck's going to enter in off of 200 for that fueling station, or are the trucks making deliveries going to come in off of 900 and go straight across to the back of the store?
the delivery trucks for the store, the intention there is for them to come into that rear service drive and then be able to turn around in this area and circulate back out to the rear service drive. The trucks for this particular function here, they can enter this way. What you have to do here is there is a clockwise motion that happens for the way that the Meyer fuel trucks deliver their fuel. So they would come along this road, circulate clockwise, and then they could either exit here, they could go to the back. It's unlikely they would make the left here because they would end up, most likely they're going to be heading back out this way. So the entire site is set up so that a truck can circulate it, mainly because that's for emergency services. We know that we test the template because we know if a truck can circulate it, we know a fire truck can circulate it. But the intention is for delivery trucks to use this rear access driveway here. The Meyer fuel trucks would be the only ones that access up here. And my guess is if this site is doing extremely well, there would be maximum of 3 trucks a week. It's in this area, I would anticipate it's probably 2 fueling trucks a week.
The only other question I have is the secondary drive-through. We didn't want fast food restaurants when we had initially talked about this in that location. So do you have a prospective tenant in mind, or?
We do not have a prospective tenant in mind, but a fast food restriction was one of the restrictions that were talked about and that we've agreed to. The preservation of a second drive-through is really intended to be for a pickup window where you would you would order your food online and be able to pull up to the window and pick it up. It won't have a menu board or ordering function there at the drive-through.
Okay, so I don't see the fast food restaurant on item 4 as a prohibitive site.
Thought that it.
I know we have talked about it before, but I don't see it
Yeah.
on here.
I think that was.
The drive-through restriction.
I mean, that. Right.
Number 5.
Yeah, the pharmacy drive-through would be one of those drive-throughs.
Right, but it doesn't say that it's prohibiting a fast food restaurant. It's not in item 4 and it's not clarified in item 5.
Okay, I didn't realize that. That was never the intention to have the fast food restaurant
So
there.
you will exclude that? Are you in
I
agreement to
believe
exclude
so.
that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Linda, if you would, you had offered to do the 5 criterion. I'll take you up on that offer now.
Okay. So the first criterion is always the comprehensive plan, and your comprehensive plan does recommend a land use for this site, and it is for area retail, which equates to the C2 district. So it does meet criteria 1. Criteria 2 is the current conditions and character, current structures and uses in each district. We believe that the proposed layout that Mr. Smallwood described for you, how it's been designed to be neighborhood serving and appropriate buffers to the surrounding uses, that we do believe criteria 2 has been met. The most desirable use for which the land in the zoning district is adapted. Staff finds that the proposed use for the subject site, when considering the location and configuration of the property, that this criterion has been met, that this area of the town does not have any grocery type options or any basic retail options. So establishing a commercial district in this part of town would allow that area to be served and also prevent trips further down, going down to US 36 and bring some of that traffic off of US 36. Number 4 is the conservation of property values. We have no reason to believe that the property values throughout the town would be impacted through the rezoning. And number 5 is responsible development and growth. Again, we talked about how the commercial uses are needed within this area to serve the residents of the surrounding area, to prevent traffic trips to the larger commercial area on 36. Criteria for rezoning, again, is taken as in the totality, so they don't have to exactly prove each one. It's not like a finding of fact, but we do believe they do meet all 5 criteria.
Thank you. And then my only other question is, are there any other prohibited uses for this site that we should add to this list? Aside of the fast food.
I would like to clarify the fast food because fast food's not defined in the ordinance. So what are you meaning a standalone restaurant? Are you meaning menu boards?
We talked about no drive-through. We have enough of those on 36.
Mhm.
It's our corridor for that. Every other place is that. It's been an exception all along. And we talked about more family-oriented, sit-down, indoor, outdoor dining for this location, as opposed to a fast food drive-through.
So the one that could have the drive-through, we were envisioning like a Qdoba or a Panera or something like that.
Which we have on 36.
But would you consider that fast food?
Yes.
So what?
Drive-through.
So you wouldn't want any other drive-through?
I don't, but I'm one of 5. I'm just saying that we had discussed it before at the neighborhood meetings and things that, we didn't really want to see more drive-through restaurants there. It's a neighborhood place. You want to be able to bring your family, sit down, have a nice meal if you're walking on the trails. And Fast food's fast food.
Is petitioner opposed to making that amendment?
Limiting to just the pharmacy drive-through, you mean?
Can we maybe make it a little bit more specific in the sense of allowing it to be?
Could you state your name and address, please?
Ross Byer, 2350 3 Mile Road, Northwest Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm the Indiana real estate manager for Meyer. And I think what the conception was for that was for somebody to be able to come in, and it would be probably a restaurant with a seating area, and they would be able to have an app, or people could download an app or go to their website and order food for pickup. And maybe a way to address your concern would be to say no menu board or intercom communication. Some people are only allowed to just drive up. So there's not a, there's not a big canopy necessarily. There's not there's not the apparatus that's involved with that. Would that?
Does anybody else have any opinion on it? I mean, I know what I'm thinking, but I haven't heard from anyone else.
Any other comments? Anybody else?
I would think that, and I'm not trying to take away from what you're saying, but I would think that to do what you're saying, there's restaurants and places that have parking areas that food is brought out to them for delivery rather than the drive-through window. So I don't know if that's something that would be okay or not. But,
I would say no drive-through ordering, no drive-through. I mean,
which would take away the drive.
yeah. We have enough fast food. This is this is supposed to be a neighborhood place.
Right, and I guess I'm guilty of being in the business and having a more defined vision of what fast food is. Your McDonald's, your Burger Kings, your Taco Bells, which we have no intention of doing. So I could also see something like this being a coffee shop. A local coffee shop could have a drive-through. They could have an app or a website that they could come through. It's not going to be a Starbucks location, most likely. We don't have a specific tenant in mind right now. It's too early in the process for that. Whenever we come in with our development plan, the final development plan, then there will be another opportunity for the Plan Commission to also review that too, and make sure that we're in line with that concept. So I would use the term fast casual would be able to operate there maybe, but not fast food. So, it could be probably the higher end operators. It could be somebody like in my neighborhood, I live in Broad Ripple, Sam's could have a restaurant, which is a nice sit down restaurant, but they could also, have a takeout window.
What they have here, they've limited themselves to 2 of them, one of them being the pharmacy. So if you got 3 outbuildings, you got, 2 end caps on each one, that's 6. You only can have 1, so you have 1 of 6.
And we could commit to having it on 900, say where it's shown on that site plan. And that's also adjacent to commercial property on the east side. I think it's zone C2 on the east side, and then it's industrial as you go north. So it keeps it away from most of the residences. I mean, I know Lennar's coming into the north, but it's hundreds of feet away from that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Would somebody like to make a motion for the final reading of ordinance 2024-58, the Meyer rezoning?
Did we discuss the verbiage of what this restriction, did we not discuss it? Did we agree to what the verbiage of this restriction would be. I don't think we did, but I want to make sure I'm not missing it if we did.
I don't think anything was agreed to.
Are you talking about the verbiage regarding the drive-through?
Yeah, what that restriction,
I don't know what he said, comfort or casual, or I think that's even more confusing.
here's the deal, I'm prepared to make a motion, but I'm also trying to make sure we get in these limitations legally, correctly, so that staff and the developer can accurately get this. Have we decided what those are?
I think he said that he would be okay with a non-menu board and a takeout window.
Does that fit what your
That's fine.
concerns are? And then I think my follow on to that then is, I think for you, Linda, how do we, one, say that in a motion that then gets accurately transferred to how you guys are going to interpret it during planning commission meetings, DPR, et cetera, anything follow on? Make sure that this is enforceable and accurate.
We would amend number 5 to say the second drive-through would be pickup only with no menu board.
Pickup only, and what was the last?
No menu board,
Okay.
no menu ordering.
And petitioner, you're comfortable with those restrictions? Those commitments? With that commitment? Then if that's okay, I move we approve ordinance 2024-58, the Meyer rezoning, to include an amendment on line item 5. I don't think I'm saying that right. Yeah, line item 5, number 5, to limit the second drive-through. The first drive-through limited to the pharmacy for the grocery. The second drive-through must be for pickup only and no menu board items.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Bill Holland,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Jason Puckett, 4. Robert Pope.
4.
Next item on the agenda is the final reading of ordinance 2024-59, Laurel Heights rezoning the Bloom property. Ms. Albrand?
Thank you again. This was property located at 4252 and 4296 East Main Street on the furthest west portion of Washington Township, adjacent to Danville. It is 29.5 acres, currently zoned ag within the Hendricks County jurisdiction. There is currently a pending super voluntary annexation for this site. This would rezone to the R3 mixed residential zoning. However, they are not proposing anything mixed. It would be for single family residential only. They are proposing 40 new lots. There's 2 houses existing there's 2 properties, 2 houses on each property. They would remain, and then 40 new lots to be constructed. This was heard by the Plan Commission on our November 25th, and was a favorable recommendation was sent to you by a vote of 6-0. The R3 classification was decided on with discussions with staff because of the product that they wanted to do in order to get to the lot width that they desired, which is 70 feet. Our R2 district has a minimum lot width of 80 feet. So they did choose the R3 district, which has a lot width of 60 feet. So their proposed 70 is within the R3 classification. However, the overall density of this proposed rezoning would be at the R1 density. So it would be at 1.45 units per acre, which is consistent with the R1 in density. It's because of the larger area to the north, and they're clustering the lots and preserving the larger area to the north, that they needed the R3 to get a little bit of a smaller lot on the site. But the density is what we would expect in this part of town, and it's consistent with the adjacent residential, both to the east and the west. I'll quickly go over the criteria. The Avon plan does not have a recommendation for the site at all because it's not anywhere near any of the planned areas in the 2017 plan. When it's zoned ag and recommends ag, it would recommend that to stay. However, it does say within the ag district that it encourages some development when areas where it's adjacent to existing residential and served by utilities, which is the case in this particular site. We also looked at the Hendricks County Comprehensive Plan, which recommends conservation residential, which is precisely what they did here, which is take the site, conserve the natural area, and cluster the lots within the previously farmland part of the site. The criteria for Criteria 2, it's consistent with the single-family residences of the area. The most desirable use of the land, because it's completely surrounded by residential, we think residential is appropriate. We think there is no reason to believe that the property values throughout the jurisdiction would be affected. And we think it is a responsible development and growth. Criteria 5 is met because it, again, is expanding the existing residential. We are making recommendation with 3 commitments, and they are pretty standard. The petitioner's representative is here with a presentation if you'd like to hear it.
Any questions for Linda? If the petitioner.
I've got one. I've got one for you. And this might already be taken care of, but let me tell you my concern and then maybe get my question. My concern is we're looking at potentially rezoning this entire property to R3. It gets R3. This development doesn't go through. It's zoned appropriately. Some years down the road, another developer picks it up and says, okay, and we're going to buy out that additional property and put R3 to the max of our standard across that entire development. I don't want that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe, and so correct me if I'm wrong, I think commitment number 2 sort of defends us against
That's why I
that.
put that in there for
Got
that
it.
exact reason.
That was my only concern. I like this idea. I think it's a great compromise and it's actually really impressive. I don't want that weakness to be taken advantage of. So as long as that protects us, I'm good. I'm good.
Would the petitioner like to come forward?
Thank you. You know, Linda does such a good job. Sometimes I think I just walk up here and say, just what she said. But good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is John Moore. My address is 50 South Meridian Street, Suite 700, Indianapolis 46204. Here tonight on behalf of your petitioner, Lennar Homes of Indiana, LLC. With me in the crowd tonight, I have Taylor Navarre with Lennar Homes. I also have the property owner, Mr. Bloom, is here, as well as his representative, Mr. Russell Webb, here to answer any questions. As Linda said, this site that we're here to talk about is roughly 29 acres, just over 29 acres on the far western edge of Avon, just outside the town limits for the town of Avon. It's just north of East Main Street and just east of the Four Oaks subdivision. The site is currently going through a super voluntary annexation into the town of Avon. We were here, if you recall, on November the 7th. We were here, presented this to you. At that time, explained that this originally had been filed for annexation in the town of Danville. And at your request, that was withdrawn, and instead it's going through a 2-step process to be annexed into the town of Avon. Later on your agenda tonight, you'll hear the phase 1 annexation final reading,
And then once that is complete, we will commence the phase 2 annexation. But tonight we are rezoning the entirety of the property. And as Linda pointed out, we're asking that the property be rezoned to the R3 zoning classification to permit a single family residential subdivision containing 40 homes. Here, this is the same aerial you saw on November the 7th. That's our site there, the 29 acres, just east of the Four Oaks subdivision planned unit development. That's in the town of Danville. Four Oaks has lots that are between 60 feet wide and 70 feet wide if you look at their development and the plats there. Comprehensive plan doesn't quite reach out this far. That was adopted in 2017, but as pointed out in the staff report, the development would be consistent with the town's comprehensive plan. Here's the preliminary site plan, the conceptual site plan, substantially similar to what you saw on November 7th. The only change has been we've created a little notch out here so that this owner, Mr. Bloom, this driveway will then cut into our access point here rather than down here where it was. So that's the one change that's been made. We also have the playground here to the north of development. Here, East Main Street, we have one access onto East Main Street. As Linda indicated, we have committed to 70-foot wide lots. R2 is an 80-foot minimum. R3 is a 60-foot minimum. So ours are 70-foot wide. These lots average about 130 feet deep wide. So they're about 9,100 square feet. And as you'll see here on the slide, the R2 density is 3.0 homes per acre. Our density, total acreage of the property, 29 acres. The Laurel Heights section is 17.2 acres. Laurel Heights number of homes is 40. So our overall density is approximately 1.45 homes an acre. The Laurel Heights section that you see there in green and yellow, that's approximately 2.3 homes per acre, well below the R2 limit of 3.0 homes per acre. So it's from a density perspective, more of a R1 development than an R3 development. For this subdivision, Lennar will be offering the Cornerstone Collection. Contains 5 floor plan options: the Ashbury, the Fairmont, the Oxford, the Rockwell, and the Seabrook. Square footages will be between 1,800 and 3,400 square feet. We'll have a mix of ranch and 2-story homes. We've committed to a minimum of 70-foot wide lots. These homes will be priced in an approximate range of $450,000 to $500,000. We've added a commitment that there will be no apartments or townhomes as part of the development. The homes will have 2 and 3 car garages and will contain several options: the brick wrap, brick wainscot, side-loaded garage, carriage garage, 4-foot nook, covered patio, morning room, and basement. Those options are offered and required because the last point there, all homes will meet or exceed the architectural standards contained in the Avon UDO, including the anti-monotony provisions that are in the Avon UDO. Got some renderings. These are the same renderings that you saw on November the 7th. Wide variety offered here to meet the architectural standards in the UDO, as well as the anti-monotony. Various collections of 1 and 2 stories. You'll see the garages. There are 2 car garages attached, porches, porticos, notch outs, various wide variety of renderings for the homes. There are more ranches. The 5 criteria for this rezoning, Linda briefly touched on that, but I won't read you all the criteria, but the staff report does show that we meet all 5 criteria for rezoning, for approval of this rezoning request. As Linda mentioned, this request comes to you with a unanimous favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission. At the Plan Commission hearing, there were 3 commitments requested by staff: the 50-foot half right-of-way, which we agreed to. The future preliminary plat shall be generally consistent with the conceptual plan submitted with this rezoning petition. Recreation impact fee shall be assessed at the time of permitting for each lot. And then we added 2 additional commitments to prohibit multifamily dwellings and townhomes, and also to confirm that the minimum lot width for the lots in the subdivision will be 70 feet wide. So with that, we respectfully request that you approve this rezoning to R3, and we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for the petitioner? Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, is somebody prepared to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the ordinance, the reading of ordinance 2024-59, the Laurel Heights rezoning of the Bloom property as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Bill Holland,
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Next item on the agenda is the final reading of ordinance 2024-47, the 2025 salary ordinance.
Yeah, this is the final reading for the salary ordinance. We did introduce this 2 meetings ago. It does establish the minimum pay and benefits for town employees. And any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Cannon? Somebody prepared to make a motion?
I move we adopt ordinance 2024-47, the 2025 salary ordinance as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Bill Holland,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Greg Zuzen.
4. Next item on the agenda, final reading of ordinance 2024-48, employee handbook amendments. Mr. Taylor.
Yes, this ordinance, if adopted, would make 2 primary changes to your employee handbook. It would substantially rewrite your privacy policy for your employees to comply with current law. And then secondly, insert a provision which would allow the town manager and the police chief some latitude in lateral hiring to award PTO consistent with experience rather than treating that employee as a first-year employee. It's discretionary, it's not mandatory, but it would give that discretion. This is second reading.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor? Somebody like to make a motion?
I move we adopt ordinance 2024-48, employee handbook amendments as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Bill Holland,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Greg Zuzen.
4. Next item is a public hearing and a final reading of ordinance 2024-51, the 2024 additional appropriations. Ms. Loker, are you going to do this? Mr. Cannon?
I'll do an introduction and Julie can jump in if she wants to. Just a reminder, these additional appropriations are not necessarily overspending by the departments. These are actually typically revenues that the town received, or they may have been expenses. We expense them and then we got revenue back later. And so we're putting them back into the budget. Otherwise it actually looks like a negative. And so that's what these are. There are a couple in the police department, just supplies and things like that. Those are grants and things like that. I know we talked earlier about the transfer to the rainy day fund. When we do that, that actually ends up looking like $150,000 negative. So we do have to transfer that money back in. It just basically zeroes out that amount. And again, it just reduces the fund balance. MVH has 2 additional appropriations. Some of it when there are accidents and there's damage to street signs or to street lights or something like that, we do get insurance reimbursements. So those are the insurance reimbursements. Again, the Public Works Department has to spend the money, and then when we get them back, you got to put the money back. Otherwise, it looks like the Public Works Department spent too much money. Certainly the largest one in MVH is the Community Crossings Matching Grant, which is the $1,120,319.28. That number is actually a little different than what I submitted to you guys last time. Our grant application was actually higher than that, but if you guys remember, Steve actually got good bids and our bid numbers were actually less. So our grant amount was actually less. So I think last time you guys saw it, it was like $1,161,000, I believe, something like that, and some change. But the actual grant amount was $1,123,1928. And so that's the MVH additional appropriation. The edit is our Make My Moves reimbursement. And then I think I had shared with you guys as well that we had a mispost that we just had to repost to edit, which made it was actually from last year. So it makes it look like a negative. So we're just putting the money back to cancel that. And then the final leasey one was the police department's request to purchase some workout equipment for the police department. So those are all the additional appropriations. Thank you to Julie and Brian for all their help with those, putting them together. It takes all three of us to track those and keep them up so that we can get those on your guys' agenda. And you are required to have a public hearing, and it was advertised.
Any questions for Mr. Cannon? Let's open the public hearing now at 8:23. If you come forward, please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. With nobody coming forward, then we'll close that portion of the public hearing. If there are no other comments, I need a motion then to approve the ordinance.
Make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2024-51 for additional appropriations as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Don Loudon,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Bill Holland,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Next item is the final reading of ordinance 2024-52, the Meyer annexation. Mr. Cannon?
Yes, the town council already approved the fiscal plan. You also held your public hearing as required for the annexation. Just as a reminder, I know we just had the Meyer rezoning. The majority of the Meyer property was actually already in town. This is the little piece that was along County Road 900 East. And so the rest of the Meyer project was already in town, but it's just for that little parcel. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Cannon? Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move we adopt ordinance 2024-52, the Meyer annexation as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Bill Holland,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Next item is the final reading of ordinance 2024-53, the Bloom annexation phase 1.
Yeah, so similar to the Meyer one, Laurel Heights, the rezoning that you guys just did, we are doing this annexation in 2 phases. We refer to it as a Bloom annexation. Again, you guys adopted a fiscal plan and you held your public hearing. And this is the last step in that process to adopt the annexation. The second phase will go into effect, or you guys have to wait to adopt the second phase till phase 1 is actually effective. So you'll see that in your December and your January, or actually mostly your January meetings. You'll see that phase 2 coming along as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Cannon? Somebody like to make a motion?
I move we adopt ordinance 2024-53, the Bloom annexation phase 1 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Bill Holland,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Greg Zuzen.
4. Next item is the introduction of ordinance 2024-55, the 2025 holiday schedule. Mr. Cannon?
Yes, you guys do have to approve the holiday schedule. This is carried over basically from the same schedule as last year, which includes 13 holidays. We generally follow the federal holiday schedule. And again, we had 13 holidays last year, and we're proposing 13 holidays this year. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Cannon? For the minutes, then, we'll show that we have introduced ordinance 2024-55, the 2025 holiday schedule. Next item on the agenda is the introduction of ordinance 2024-56, the 2024 reappropriation ordinance.
This is the reappropriation ordinance that we do at the end of every year. We just kind of clean up all of our account lines. Like we just did the additional appropriations with the additional revenue that we had received. And just so you guys are aware, I have received all the revenue and have entered it that you guys approved in that additional. The reappropriation just cleans up the account lines. If we overspent in overtime budget, we fix it because within that same fund, within each fund. If you have any questions.
Does it tie back to ordinance 2024-51 that we had just approved earlier?
No, I will be sending you, Calvin and I are currently working on these numbers. We had to introduce it blank, but I will be sending these numbers to you probably by Monday or Tuesday so that you have them ahead of schedule and you have plenty of time to look them over, before you adopt it. But that's one of those things I needed to reconcile November to get a true number for the reappropriations.
Any other questions?
You guys do need to do the additional appropriation does tie to it, because otherwise Julie's
Oh,
got a bunch
yes,
of
yeah,
negatives.
sorry.
So that's what, we need to get that done before she can do the reappropriation. So
Yeah.
when you get your report, the additional appropriation ordinance you just adopted will be reflected in Julie's report.
Then let's show for the minutes that we have introduced ordinance 2024-56, the 2024 reappropriation ordinance. And the next item on the agenda is a public hearing and introduction of ordinance 2024-57, the Aviana annexation. Mr. Cannon.
Yeah, I'll just be brief. This is, you guys just approved the fiscal plan for this. It's the 1.17 acre parcel on Ronald Reagan Parkway, and you are required to have a public hearing and introduce the ordinance.
Any questions for Mr. Cannon? Well, then let's open the public hearing at 8:29. If you would, state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. With nobody coming forward, then we'll close the public hearing and we'll show for the minutes that we have had a public hearing and the introduction of ordinance 2024-57, the Aviana annexation. Next item is legal counsel report. Mr. Taylor. This is the second of 2 public comment opportunities. The public may come forward and address the council. Please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. There's nobody coming forward. We'll close that portion of the agenda and move to council comment. With no council comment, we'll move to council calendar. Mr. Cannon.
Just thank you, town council. I know no one else will know it, but I know it. You guys have been here for 4.5 hours now. So thank you for bearing through everything we've done today. A great job on the agenda. Our next meeting is December 19th, and that is our final meeting of the year. No work session before, so congratulations.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
So.